Alors, bonjour à tous, vous m'entendez peut-être. Voilà, on va patienter encore quelques petites minutes, le temps que tout le monde ait le temps de se connecter. Et puis après, on switchera in English, comme on dit en bon français, pour partager avec vous une forme de rétrospective sur un programme que l'on a conçu avec AXA Partners. Voilà. On va laisser encore quelques minutes pour que tout le monde puisse se connecter. Et on devrait avoir un petit peu de son, normalement. Ou Marine, peut-être sinon, si tu veux, je sais pas, faire un petit peu de beatbox ou quelque chose comme ça. Pour,
Je te laisse lancer
la
le temps.
petite danse dont nous parlions.
Non, c'était pas ça c'était pas ça qu'on avait dit, mince. Ah,
Merci Blandine, j'avais vraiment envie de faire une beatbox.
le beatbox de Marine est toujours aussi impressionnant. Okay, so I think we'd be okay to start now. Hopefully, some others will join to participate to that kind of retrospective we will do now. So thank you for all to be here. We will be three French speakers, but speaking in English. So just be indulgent with our accent, but we decided to speak in English rather than speak in Franglish, because all the program we will present you has been designed in English. So we decided to speak in English and to be okay with our accent. So what we will talk about for the next hours is a program we had the chance and the privilege to design for AXA Partners, which was really designed for the community of 250 leaders at AXA Partners that had to and that still have to deal with a kind of profound transformation that has happened in their organization. So will be 3 speakers right now that you see on your screen, and I will present them to you for just a minute. So if we can go to the next slide, just to present ourselves. So we have the chance to have Thibault Demoures with us, who is the Asia Head of Marketing and Distribution at AXA Partners. He will tell us his story with this program, because he had been involved since day one into the design of this program until the end of the pilot journey that we will go through with you this morning. We also have Marine Veillon, who has been project director on this on this program, who is a transformation expert at Humans Matter. And I am Alexandre Bossier. Maybe I can call myself a cognitive designer. I don't know. It's for you to tell. And I'm leading most of the innovation at Humans Matter. I have to precise that Marine is based in Hong Kong, so she's up for a few hours now, which is not my case. And Thibault, are you still based in Hong Kong or in Singapore? I have a doubt now. But you're with us now. Can you hear us, Thibault? Yes?
Yeah, Thibault, you're a bit frozen. Thibault is based in Malaysia.
In Malaysia, okay. So almost in Singapore. Can you hear us well, Thibault, now? And maybe try to speak so that we can check that.
I can, but my connection isn't great.
Okay, well, that will be okay.
That my sound is breaking up. I hope that it will work.
It will work. It will work. So this Humans in Motion is the second one as part of a collection. I would say of this webinar that we designed in order to talk about what we consider as a winning strategy to thrive in uncertainty, which is about switching mental model. And so that means for managers and for leaders to be able to change their own mindset in order to cope with uncertainty and even in order to thrive in uncertain times. And of course, we all know that we had to face a lot of uncertain times in the past few months, and most probably it will continue. So basically, the challenge we had to face with the design of this program was how we can help manager of managers to lead when everything is changing. And when we start the design of that program for AXA Partners, it was pre-COVID. And even in pre-COVID time, and because of the specific context of AXA Partners, which was born after the fusion of two entities at AXA, which was a very multi-local organization with countries and regions that were managing their own businesses with regards to their own local context, etc. And this organization, after the merger, get into a kind of integration of their business model and organization model. So we had to face with that, but basically everything was changing in the organization. So as I was saying, the value proposition, the business model, the organization model, etc., etc. And so the challenge was, how can we guide and accompany and equip the leaders, the manager of managers, in order for them to continue to lead and to continue to engage the managers they are managing in this transformation, which of course comes with a lot of uncertainties. What we propose basically to share with you in this hour of webinar is a kind of retrospective of that program in 4 key milestones. So these 4 key milestones that we'll talk about the co-design process we engaged ourselves in order to come up with a relevant program for that audience. That will be the first milestone. We'll talk about the second milestone, which is the first pilot, the first cycle. You will see this program has been organized in 5 thematic cycles, and the first pilot was on the first cycle, and we will have the feedback of Thibault on that first experience. Then we'll talk about the full journey itself. That was a 12-month program. And then we will finish by maybe the most interesting part, which will be the feedback of Thibault, of what I have called a now what, is basically what has changed since the end of this program for him, and how does he feel it has helped him in any way. It's now the right time for me also to remind that you have the chat of the webinar that you can use to post any comment, etc. And you have also a tab that is called questions, where you can ask your questions. Of course, we'll keep 10 minutes at the end of this webinar to run a kind of Q&A session. All right, so let's now deep dive into this first milestone that we will go through, which was the co-design part of that program. I will be quite quick, quite fast on that part. What we did basically is really focus on what was needed by the leaders in this community. That means that basically we started a learning program by first forgetting about any learning objectives of the program. So we worked with the L&D department at AXA Partners. Of course, they had in mind some learning objectives for that program. But our advice to them, and the way we operated at the start of this program, was basically to forget about the learning objectives. We say it's not about, we're talking to leaders, we're trying to help them, so it's not about defining what they should learn. It's really about focusing on what is their leadership context, but what do they have to cope with in this transformation, and what are the actual needs they are directly expressing or not directly expressing, for which we can bring an answer, for which we can propose them to live some experiences. So that means that we followed a kind of classical design process, starting with an important empathy phase, really asking a lot of questions, running a lot of interviews, trying to understand what was the context they were facing, etc., etc. Then, thanks to that, we've been able to define basically some problems to solve, and then, thanks to the problem statement, problem definition, we've been able to be quite creative in the ideas in terms of learning experiences, learning journey, etc. And then we moved up to prototyping, testing, etc., which is quite a classical design process, but not that used when it comes to design a learning program. Marine, maybe I can let you follow up on that one to end on this first milestone about the co-design.
Sure, thank you, Alexandre, for the introduction. So apart from the design objectives, there were also the idea of onboarding the managers of managers into the transformation and into the whole process. So we had 5 main objectives. The first one was, of course, to help those leaders think around this transformation, make it their own, understand the direction, how they could contribute to it, so that they are able to cascade it to their teams. So that was the first objective. The second one, and as we have extensively discussed just before, the environment has been changing a lot, and we wanted to support the managers in delivering their day-to-day, in delivering their leadership mission when the lines were changing. Then the third objective was to implement the change within and with their teams, to empower them, meaning to give them a sense of belonging and ownership to this new story that was being written. Fourth objective was to contribute to the transformation, to be catalysts, to empower these leaders to become catalysts of these transformations. And the final objective, of course, was to go beyond the transformation itself and to build tomorrow's AXA Partners, to create a common vision supported by new transversal networks, for instance, between leaders. So maybe we can go to the next slide. So actually, what Alex mentioned, the first phase was really an emphasized phase, asking a lot of questions to leaders, trying to understand what were their pain points in that specific transformation context. And 5 main themes arose. So the first one was inspire and empower. So basically, it's how to identify and to leverage the intrinsic motivators within your teams, and to engage them into the transformation. So which buttons to push in order to embark everyone. Second topic was about continuous improvement. So how to understand, how to be able to mobilize the collective intelligence, and how to use agile ways of working, which are anyway crucial in any uncertain and volatile and changing environment. Third topic was about leading in ambiguity, so how to become resilient, how to adapt our models in complex and in very rapidly changing environments. Fourth topic was about driving the purpose. So it was at the crossroads of the 3 previous topics, to work on tangible and engaging actions that can empower and develop the team agile mindset. So learn why and how to create the right environment to drive autonomous improvement towards a big, like a collective purpose. And then finally, the 5th topic was how to navigate in a matrix organization. So how to connect concepts, but also people, how to develop ecosystems in order to be able to evolve in those very matricial organizations, how to switch mental models, how to go beyond the theoretical boundaries, for instance, of your team, to do your job and to keep the transformation going. So maybe now it's time to give the floor to Thibault. Thibault, you have been involved since the very beginning in this project. Maybe you want to tell us a little bit what was your first contact with the program?
Sure. I have switched off the camera because I think it's coming in the way of a proper sound. So I'll put the camera on when I'm not speaking, maybe. So my first contact with the program was very early in the process, in fact, because I was part of the team that was keen to put that program in place. So it was predominantly with the learning and development teams of AXA Partners in Central, and also right away with the very senior management of the unit I work for. The executive committee was very involved into this and very adamant to roll it out globally and in sequences. So yeah, that was the first contact I had with the program. Now that goes back, I would say nearly a year and a half ago, if not more, that this started. So it's been quite a journey.
Thank you, Thibault.
And I remember from our first, at least my first contact with the program was to run maybe 20 or 25 interviews with senior management and some leaders at AXA Partners. You were part of these interviewees. Did you remember what you told me? Did you remember what you told me as part of your leadership context and your needs and your development needs as a leader?
I confess I do not. I confess I do not. Did I say something wrong back then?
Maybe not, because I think it led us to something interesting that we'll discover in the next few minutes. But what I remember is that you talked a lot about what was your actual context between your maybe your different responsibilities within the organization, some more strategic responsibilities, thinking about the future of the business you're involved in, but also having to face with some let's say day-to-day operations that could take a lot of your time and your time to act as a leader, thinking about the next opportunities. And so what I remember is that it was very much about you describing what you had to face with, rather than to express a kind of wish list on the capabilities you wanted to develop. Does that ring a bell?
That sounds totally correct, indeed. So for some context for everyone in the room, so I am based in Malaysia, but I have daily interactions with at least 10 countries in Asia and in Europe. But domestically in Malaysia, I have an operational role. So there's like kind of a front split job that indeed I found sometimes challenging. Alex, you're right.
And if you recall that time, or maybe it's still a need, how would you define your need as a leader to be able to face with that kind of struggle of two different temporalities, I would say, two different types of objectives?
So back then, when we originally talked, the situation was pre-COVID and traveling was possible, and it was possible to have physical interactions with people. Since then, say 18 months in the process, you can't travel, I can't travel anymore, and I can't even meet local colleagues because we are on full confinement in Malaysia. It's all work from home. So the situation has changed a lot in that sense. Today, I think the program has helped me a lot in many aspects, and maybe we'll allude to this a little later. But predominantly, as far as I'm concerned, and maybe I'm preempting some of the questions you might have later, around the navigating the matrix, because the AXA organization is a very large one. It's the second largest company in France, if not the third one. It's very complex. And one of the things that I found to be a limit, and that a lot of my colleagues found to be a limit as well, is navigating that organization. And that basically translated itself into a lot of struggle, a lot of battles. Whereas navigating the organization, which is one of the elements of the training, is an eye-opener for me. It was an eye-opener, and that's the one that I use the most today, whether when I'm interacting with my colleagues in Malaysia or in other countries.
And it's very interesting. And maybe you could describe for the people who are listening to us how you have been involved in the co-design process. So if we go back to the very beginning, so you were a co-designer, and how was it different from maybe other processes you were involved in?
So I think one of the unique elements of this program is that the contribution that I could make as a participant was very frequent, And I felt at least that I had the power to influence the design of the next session, basically. So I was involved before the calls we had with the cohort, and after the call, and sometimes even in between, and then another session again. So overall, I haven't counted, but I feel like I had at least 10 or 15 occasions or iterations to feedback and contribute. And I think in any of the projects I've had a chance to work in before, or training programs, it is definitely the first time that I feel that I'm in, maybe not the pilot seat, but right next to it.
Thank you for that feedback. Yeah, indeed. This was a very iterative process, very client-centric around the needs of the managers, and we didn't want to go away from those needs. So it was very important for us and for the whole design team, and maybe Alex wants to add a word here, but to stick to the needs and to help build a program that will, topic by topic, deliver some very actionable insights and learnings, and that will grow new capabilities or new let's say switches or new tools for the leaders who were facing a difficult situation on top of their day-to-day, meaning to motivate their teams towards an objective. Yeah, Alex, do you want to add something?
No, maybe just one word, which is to say that we might think that basically a co-design process is just it's happening before the program starts, and basically you do the design and then you have a design and you roll it out. And I'm very pleased to hear Thibault say that basically he had the feeling to influence the design from one session to the other, which is exactly what we wanted to set up, because we reckon basically that needs are changing, even for leaders. even leaders can change their mind and can discover new needs all along the way. And we really wanted to set up that type of process with leaders involved in the design, in the pilot, in the rollout, with the L&D team, in order to be able to adapt continuously what was proposed as experiences and as contents in that program.
Yeah, because actually maybe we want to stress that out. Those 5 topics, each topic, and we will deep dive a bit later into that, was rolling out on 3 months. So there were test cohorts, so people who had expressed their needs, who would follow the program and give constant feedback to the design team, so that each topic and each journey on each topic could be adapted to reflect the most common comments and so on, to make sure that indeed we were having a program designed for the managers and that it would be useful. So each one of those 5 topics had their own journey. It was 3 months journey, and each cohort followed topic after topic after topic, and with all the time some reflexive and feedback loops to the design team. And Thibault so was instrumental in this process. Maybe we can have a look, for instance, at the first topic, which is Inspire and Empower, to give you a bit more flavor about the way the program was designed. So actually, as you see on your screen, you have many different touch points. Some were synchronous, meaning that everybody was connected at the same time within the cohort. So I should have started by that. Like, cohorts were between 15 to 20 people with one facilitator. And what you see in orange, like the orange octagons or hexagons, they are the moments where everybody is connected together on a webinar. So this program was fully remote, And there were moments where everybody was connected and exchanging, or there were moments where they were like self and individual learning. So these are the dark pink dots that you can see. And then there were also some, so the green dot is the one-on-one with the facilitator, so to debrief from the program so far, to discuss on the learnings and to prepare an application. Sorry, maybe it's not the right English word, to prepare like a team connection, meaning that leaders were asked towards the end of each program to try to apply and replicate something that they had learned on that topic with their teams. So as you see, it was very hybrid. Collective workshops and discussions, individual learnings, individual assignments that could be just for one person or one person towards the outside, and then interaction between the leader and their own teams to try to cascade those learnings. The whole idea of this program is to empower leaders to embark their teams towards the transformation, but also to help them grow the capabilities of the managers just below them, because those guys have exactly the same mission, which is to embark their own teams in the transformation. So it was approximately 10 touch points per topic, approximately 10 weeks. The idea was to distill the learnings little by little, to keep some space for self-reflection, for capitalization, for getting back on the learnings individually or with the facilitator or with the group, in order to anchor and to sustain even more those learnings. And towards the end, there was this transfer of learnings to their teams, which actually is a very important step to ensure that you have learned and that you have sustainably learned some concepts and practice. So in the end, the leaders will have gathered some very actionable insights and tools, and they will be ready to go to the other brick, meaning to the next topic of the learning journey. I know, Alex, you wanted to say a few words about your preferred milestone in this journey, which was the learning expedition.
Yeah, but maybe I will ask if you don't mind, Marine. Maybe I will ask Thibault, and I know I will make his memory works, because I think your own journey in this first topic is now some months ago. But maybe you can tell us what was your most surprising touch point or experience or piece of content within that first topic, if it's still fresh in your mind.
It is fresh-ish, but one of the points that was critical to me, and Marine alluded to that word, it's actionable, meaning things that you can learn and reuse in the business. Not all training I've had a chance to participate to provide this. And on this first element of the training, the art of story crafting was a true actionable. So the art of story crafting is not rocket science. It doesn't have to be, but I found it to be a very, very actionable tool to embark my teams into a project that has, for which I need them to get on a journey of 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. What I mean by that is on a project that doesn't have immediate results, output. So the art of story crafting, I will massively oversimplify it, Alex and Marine, but feel free to explain after this. It's you start with the end in mind and you create the story backwards with your team. So that when I've used it, and I still use it, it allows to define what the end should look like and to go backwards step by step by asking the team to contribute. And eventually that allows the team to get to the next immediate action. And I found it very useful because in international projects in different countries, different cultures, it's a very good start for a multi-year terms project. I found very good start. That's the thing that I remember the most and that I still use, Alex.
Cool. Thank you, Thibault. Yeah, maybe to build up on that element. So the main, and I think I have. Yeah. Okay, I'm back. Maybe to build up on that. The main topic was about inspiring and empowering. What we see is that maybe a traditional way to motivate as a leader is to clarify role and responsibilities. We have this belief, in a way, that that a way to motivate is to make it clear for people what they have to do and how they have to contribute, etc. But what we know also is that when it comes to motivation from a psychological and from a cognitive standpoint, one of the key elements for motivation is how a projection in the future resonates with what we call intrinsic motivation. So what really moves you as a human being. And so this technique of story crafting is really about co-building, co-defining a future a team wants to engage in. And then basically the actions will follow. And it's so this element of building it together, co-building it, is very instrumental in this story crafting. So it's not the story or the desirable future of the leaders that is trying to explain to the team. It's really, okay, let's gather as a team and let's define together from the ground up what we want to achieve together. So as Thibault was saying, and it's not rocket science, it's quite common sense, but some leaders really don't take the time to do that with their team, or they say, no, it's my responsibility to come up with a vision. So I need to work in my office on my vision, and then I will explain it to my team, clarify their roles and responsibilities, and everything will follow. So what we tried to transmit as something very actionable is how basically you can create a narrative for the future with your team and make it very actionable by looking backwards from a narrative of the future. Marine, anything else?
Yeah, what I really liked, so I was facilitating a part of this training program, so for 12 weeks with a cohort, and what actually the most of the leaders liked was like Thibault. Actually, they felt really empowered through this workshop, and what is very nice also in doing this story crafting. And it's going beyond the story crafting, is trying to set an objective with your team. What is the desirable vision we have for our team or our company? And we agree on that vision. And then we work backwards, step by step, from there to the present. And we look at the journey. And then actually, you look back from the start to the future, and you start to list everything that could go wrong. And there is a last loop that is, okay, now that we have identified our vision and our ideal path, we have identified possible roadblocks, then what resources do we have and how will we go around or over those roadblocks together? And it really reinforces the team spirit, the feeling of agency, the sense of empowerment of the team members, and it helps to align everybody's purpose and let's say tools towards the common goal. And it's indeed very powerful. And I know that most of the leaders in my cohort chose to cascade that to their teams because it can be replicated in many environments for medium-term projects or for very long-term projects.
The key maybe here to have one last word on that is the technique doesn't consist in trying to predict the future, because remember, one of the underlying context is uncertainty. So we are not saying here that responsibility of the leader is to predict the future and come up with an action plan to reach a target, but really to work on a narrative for the future in order to motivate an entire team in engaging, in mobilizing their energy and their engagement, even if things are not predictable at all. So it's really about coming up with a narrative that motivates people rather than coming up with a target to reach with a specific action plan. And that was really what we were working on in that experience.
Thanks for the precision. Should we go to the next slide with all the learnings?
Sure. So that was basically coming back. So that was basically topic one, and when you compile all the 5 topics, we come up with almost 30-ish, 30 plus of those touch points all along a 12 months program that has happened for most of the pilot cohorts during COVID times. So the very design of that program that has started in pre-COVID times, but when we already anticipated the fact of being able to do things without being in the same room, without being totally synchronous in the interactions, revealed itself as extremely relevant when we enter the troubled COVID times. So I won't go into the details of all those touch points, but it was always the same idea of taking one topic and distilling it in several touch points. We call that touch points or anchors. You can see on that slide, which was all of them think as whether some insights or a very learning experience where during which leaders can experiment new techniques. And can reflect back on those experiments in order to develop sustainable learnings and actionable techniques. Maybe for you, maybe that are listening to us, watching us, you could think, okay, but how do you manage to stay engaged as a participant in such a long and dense journey? So maybe Thibault, you can tell us what you think about your engagement for this 12 months period.
It's not a walk in the park, and it's not easy, right? When we started this program, none of us knew or really had anticipated the volume of hours that would require and the fact that we would turn into a COVID world. So it isn't easy to stay on track. There are many touch points, as you can see here, but sometimes because of some holidays or some special events, there's actually more than a month between 2 points here. So it's not always easy. Overall, I think it's a matter of remembering why we started this, and once in a while having a bit of a reminder shot through one of the feedback sessions as well. What I shared with Marine and Alex before is we could see as the training went on that some people dropped off, and they dropped off for their own reasons. I'm sure they're professional reasons. But I think it's important at every stage, at the end of every maybe big step of the journey, to just ask people if they want to choose to continue. If we had to start it again, I would probably make that recommendation to whomever leads that cohort. Validate at every big touch points, whether people want to continue. Overall, it's important to understand how this program was run, I think, Alex. It started all at the beginning with the ambition that maybe one day we could do it face-to-face in France and it would all be good. And then as we went on and the COVID came in, we all realized that everything would be done digitally and remotely. So we tested numbers of different variations of interactions, from very quick WhatsApp interactions to 30 minutes call, more frequent but shorter. Then we went on to 2 hours. Then we even went on to 4 consecutive hours in a weekday. So we tested very different combinations to see what worked. And I think it's a never-ending discussion here. You will always have people saying, I feel better, I feel more motivated with short and frequent interactions, and some others that would say, I'd rather focus 4 consecutive hours on the topic and get it over with. So to your question, it isn't easy. I think it's important to validate with the participants at the beginning and to make sure that they understand what it means to join this program. It is a long and impactful program. And if people don't feel like they should be joining, then they should just not join. I will just add on with one thing, Alex. Some of my colleagues in Asia joined the second cohort after mine. And so some of them called me saying, what's your recommendation? And or what should I know about the program before I get in there? And my answer was, dive into it or get out of the water. Meaning either you choose to do it and you just do it, or just get out of the water and drop off right away. But don't start and stop halfway. Okay. That wasn't your question, Alex, but I thought I would share it with you.
Yeah, thank you, Thibault. Very fun. The ask for engagement is indeed quite important in that type of journey. It was indeed important to remind it.
Mm-hmm.
Marine?
Yeah, I was wondering, so we understand the level of engagement, that everybody doesn't have the same, and that it's a commitment you want to take for yourself in the long run. What would you say was the most surprising moment in the journey? So you've talked in topic 1 of the story crafting, but across the journey, one of the biggest surprises that you had, if any?
So, I don't know, I've got many things in my mind. The surprise is when we all started, I was really saying as a prerequisite that we would do a face-to-face training, or at least interaction. And I realized as the COVID came in that we would never do this. So that was a surprise because I didn't see that coming up. Just a side note, but between the start of this program and now, I've been repatriated once with my family back to France, then moved back to Asia, then relocated to another country. So a lot of the topics on navigate, ambiguity, and dealing with the matrix have resonated in my own personal experience. But just to your question, one of the things, and I expressed it before, the navigating the matrix, I think, is a remarkably important matter. And for other organizations, very large organizations who are going to undergo this program, this curriculum, you want to spend some time on it. And one of the participants dropped a sentence and I stole it and made it my own shamelessly. But in the navigating the matrix, there's an element of you can't fight the waves, but you can learn how to surf. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the surprises, if I can say that, Marine, because I loved that sentence very much. I realized it is actually not his own, but to me that illustrated very well how to navigate very large organizations. So that was one of the surprising elements, Marine.
And thank you, Thibault. And do you want to give us maybe a bit more color? For instance, what did you apply from this 5th topic? what do you apply in your day-to-day? What did you get out of it, if you had to summarize it in a few words for the audience?
It's given me tools to apply to the teams I work with. And again, at the risk of just sounding like a broken record, but here I'm interacting daily with people from operations. So people Malaysian in Malaysia, Thai in Thailand, Chinese in China, Japanese in Japan. For these people, navigating the AXA matrix is a real complicated matter because AXA's headquartered 12,000 kilometers away, because naturally French is being spoken predominantly, also because it is a very different culture for everyone, not only Western, but specifically French, because there are other ways to behave at work, call it politics, for which my local colleagues have very little understanding. And the reason I say this is I've used this navigating the matrix tool as a way to put them at peace, so to say. It's probably not the right choice of word, but to just tell them to not, as I say, to not stop the waves. Don't fight the waves. Okay, Marine, that's something I use really often when I hear a complaint from one of my local colleagues on a particular element of governance or complicated organization or blur organization chart. I feel that I've been empowered with a new tool, which is to coach them to just take a piece of paper, draw a little bit their stakeholders, and don't fight the matrix. Just find a way, learn how to surf.
Nice.
So it's a note for later to include a surfing class in this in this fifth topic. Yeah.
We have a few minutes left, maybe for some questions to Thibault or to our team.
Yeah, you can feel free to ask directly some questions in the chat or in the questions tab. Don't be shy. I have for me one last one to Thibault in order for you to come up with another question you might have. But so Thibault, imagine you are participating to a webinar during which you share your experience of that program. Imagine it's a very imaginary situation, so it's not happening now. But imagine you're in a webinar and you're sharing your experience with an audience. What would be your one word to that audience, to the participants, to describe that program or to sum it up?
Well, that's a difficult question. Sum it up in one word. 15 months of training in one word. I would probably give them a recommendation, which is to be present. So that doesn't really sum up the training, but I would really make a point to recommend participants to be present. Just don't do it for the sake of getting another line on your target list for the year, but be present, learn from it, and always ask yourself what you can take away and spread in the organization, because the training doesn't stop with us, right? The intention is for all the learnings to go across the organization. So it doesn't stop at the end of that very video call that you mentioned. So that's one word switched in 60.
Thank you, Thibault. And we have a question from Nathalie. Hello, Nathalie. I take that occasion to say hello to you, Nathalie. Nice to hear from you. So basically, she's asking normal question: if you have already been able to measure the impact of that program, on your teams, and ultimately, we can discuss about this ultimate goal on the business KPIs or on people KPIs like retention or employee net promoter score or that kind of metrics.
I'll start with the KPI impact. I think it's honestly, I think it's impossible to monitor this, because the staff retention, for instance, if it had improved, then the real question is how much of it is related to my own personal impact. We don't capture that at individual level. So business KPIs, difficult to say. Staff engagements with the people I work with, definitely. First, because I haven't used all of the tools from the program. There are some that didn't resonate much with what I do daily, but the ones that do, I use them, and that is a great question for me to add one point. One of the things that AXA, my employer, did at the end of this program is to include in my own personal objective for this year, work objective, professional objectives, to utilize at least 2 of the learnings for the business and to make a demonstration back to the management. So I think it hasn't stopped at the end of the program.
All right, thank you very much. Marine, do you have any other words, remarks, comments, or questions to Thibault before we say goodbye?
I was thinking of asking questions in the mindset, but I think so what changed in the mindset of Thibault? But I think the surfing the wave is pretty. It's a pretty good image. Like, go with the flow, and Thibault, correct me if I'm wrong, but learn how to fall back when things change and move and are challenging, and learn how to rely, I guess, on your own systems, ecosystems, and networks.
Yes, correct. I mean, I think I think my point was clear, that part of the program was good to me, and because I like expressions, I'd like to add another one to the surfing comparison. But in the learning the matrix, something that I use a lot with my colleagues, with the people I work with, is choose the path of least resistance when you run a project in an organization, the complexity of ours. That doesn't mean avoid conflict at all. It just means getting to your objective with the less possible friction. And there again, this path of least resistance is an expression I've used repeatedly since then. I find it to be a very good expression to define this element of the program.
Well, thank you, Thibault. Thanks to all of you for having listened to us during this hour. I hope it was insightful, maybe inspiring, and maybe it gives you the willingness to go surfing. At least that's what it did on me. So I leave you with that. Thank you, Thibault. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being so open and honest about your feedback with regards to this program. Thanks a lot for having been such engaged into this program for a year and a half now. And see you soon. Have a good day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.